Welcome, Eve 2020. It is June 26th, and I am Mineral. We're going to check in on Eve Online, see what's going on this day. I'm here with Spod, Fonsway, and Sully. How are you guys?
All right.
So, trying to stay alive.
Yeah, we know you're burning up in a heat wave there in England, so good luck to you guys. And we're going to move over to Eve Online now and look and see what's heating up there.
I like that segue.
Yeah, I practiced it. I did. Okay, let's turn on some visuals here. There we go. All right, we turn to Dotland, which gives us our statistics usually for the week. And then we'll try to dig in, see if we can find some unusual stuff, and then break into some topics and see if there's stuff to talk about. You're welcome to join us. And on TIS Discord, that's Talking in Stations Discord, you're also welcome to contribute in chat. I think you should be able to see the chat over my head here. Okay, so looking at the map, things look actually pretty normal. It's going to be, I think, a quiet day today. That's just a hunch, so we'll see. Let's start with Empire Space. The usual suspects for the most destructive regions in the game. The Forge has 1,994 ships destroyed. Lone Trek 1,907. And Metropolis in third place with 400 less at 1,625 ships destroyed. The most violent regions in Nullsec, it's still the quiet before the storm. We expect a lot more action coming up in the next few weeks. But Delve tops the list with 741 ships destroyed. Innsmother in second place with 701. And the Kalevala Expanse at 635. Things looking relatively normal there. If we push into some of the systems in these specific regions, the most violent regions in space over the last day, Innsmother has 2 out of the 3 top spots. CR2 TAC PQ has 240 ships destroyed. JTAC ZY SZ, also in Innsmother, has 215 ships. Those are areas that belong to Fire Coalition, I believe. We'll check it out on the map in a minute. In Lowsec, Flossiswin tops the list with 655 ships destroyed, with Tama at 333, and Nenamela in third place, 365. The High-Sec has become a different ballgame since the Triglavian invasion started. So Jita still tops the list, 507 ships destroyed. Arvasaras in Lone Trek, that's an invasion system, 276 ships destroyed there. And in third place, Udama, 233.
The reason that Arvasaras is seeing that is because it has reached liminality. The Triglavians have pushed, this is the 4th system to have been pushed past stellar reconnaissance into liminality. It is currently in second liminality, and I guess every other time that they've pushed a system, they've managed to get it to final. So let's actually take a quick look at the agency. And it's it's in second liminality, but only just, it's almost done. That thing's almost final.
Really?
So it is now, it was a 0.5 system. It is now 0.2. And if it follows the trend, it'll reach no security whatsoever when it hits final liminality.
For those that don't know, let's do a quick review. When a system gets invaded, it's either reinforced and sino-jammed, or it is invaded and taken over by Triglavians, which makes it drop security forces in there, which means you can brawl without any penalties. Is that more or less what it is?
So the Sinojam is actually Edencom forces are spreading out from their from their Edencom fortresses and going to low-sec systems that are not invaded and dropping cynojammers. These cynojammers can be destroyed, but are almost immediately replaced. So they are making lives difficult for capsulators everywhere that want to use low-sec space. So if you like jumping through low-sec, then you should not be supporting Edencom. On the other side, you have the Triglavians, which push the security away. Edencom maintains the security status of a system, and the Triglavians push it down until Concord is entirely gone. When a system reaches final liminality, the impact is that there's no Concord response and there is no security status change for any activity in that system once it reaches final liminality. All other aspects of security remain the same. The things that spawn there, the things you're allowed to do there, bushes, bombs, cynos, etc. None of that changes. It's only the security response.
Got it. So I feel like you're kind of trying to sell us on Triglavians so that we don't have system cyno jammed. But what are some of the?
That's literally it. That's literally all it comes down to. There are systems where you can brawl, like high-sec systems that reach final liminality have no police force in there. You don't have to go there. You can go there if you wish and brawl, and you can do it because it is still in essence high-sec without police. That means that there's no cynos, no bushes, and no bombs. So it is a unique new kind of space to fight people in. Free of certain specific mechanics that you would find elsewhere in space. So while the Triglavians are creating a new space for players to play, Edencom is just dropping cynojammers around and being boring.
Got it. Okay, let's push on here in a second and let's see if I can, where'd it go? There we are. CCP stream information. We have a friend, Katya Say, I said it right, who is known to EVE players as the first person to, we'll call it circumnavigate the entire EVE map, including wormholes, and to do it without ever suffering a loss. So 2 amazing feats. It took about 9 years in real time of on and off sailing, let's call it. And that player and that character are celebrated with a statue in that player's home system. Do you remember what that system is? I forget. Maybe we'll find out because Katya Say is in channel now. Yeah, and you can find out more information on that through Mark726's EVE Travel, which is a great website. If you're new to EVE Online, you should definitely look up EVE Travel because it has all the landmarks over time too. He has some stuff that's outdated, been taken out of the game, so you can see what it looked like at the time. Yeah, so if you want to visit the statue that belongs to in commemoration of the voyage of Katya.
Oh, sorry, I was hitting the wrong key. You asked where it was. I said it was Sisio. It was Sisio.
Sisio, yeah. What region is that? Sisio.
I don't know. We can look it up.
Let's look it up.
I'm pretty sure it's Caldari space.
You're right. It's the Forge. Where is it in the Forge? Oh,
it's only a couple jumps out from Jita.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was so close. I'm going to make a voyage there. Okay, but don't skip this. This is going to be EVE is Beautiful. It's going to be a stream by CCP. It starts at, let's see, well, my time it starts at 11:30. So I think that's about 18:30, 19:30. So anyway, look it up on CCP Twitch. It's called CCP TV. And EVE is Beautiful, and they're going to basically announce who the winners are of the screenshot contest. And there's going to be some beautiful, beautiful photography. It can't be worked on. It's got to be like a straight screenshot to show the game. And that's going to it's going to be really interesting. So it's everybody pretty much has a chance to win this thing. You don't have to be a super processor or Photoshop guy or anything like that. All right, so that's is that Friday? Oh my God, that's today. I'm sorry, that's today.
Yeah.
It's probably soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the Eve TV stuff was always on Saturday, so I just assumed. But it's actually today at 11:30, which means it's on in an hour. So make sure, if you're watching this to watch that. If you're not watching this live, it won't make a difference to you. Another thing I want to point out here, Slow TV Gitacam, probably. Is that what that says? Gitacam and chill music. Now, I was at a convention and I was talking to, was it Orca? Yeah, it was after I interviewed her and we sat there and talked for a little while, and I was like, you know what I really want to do? I want to do like Eve Online Slow TV. And she looked at me like, okay, you're kind of crazy. But it's neat to see it actually labeled this. I'm not taking credit for the idea. I'm sure there's plenty of Europeans that would have introduced CCP to Slow TV. But for those that don't know, do you guys know what Slow TV is? Maybe you have a different take on it.
Well, I know CCP's interpretation, but it seems that you know something else.
Yeah. Well, Slow TV is, it's like watching, it's funny because I've seen this in different things now, but it's like watching something in its natural time, and it's something usually peaceful and rhythmic and repetitive, like they affix a camera to a train, and you're watching the entire train ride, all 6 hours of it, between two European cities, for instance, and you're just watching the tracks go by with a fixed camera. Or you're on a barge and you're watching the landscape change as you're moving down in a very slow way. This thing. Sometimes I think they just take a picture of a pasture. Let's actually look at Slow TV. Yeah, so it's stuff like this. I don't know. Let's see if I can. So this is a 9-hour. This is a 9-hour journey. I'll just skip to the middle of it, and you literally are on board. Well, this is too bad because there are droplets on the camera, which is going to interfere with that. Get out of the way there. But you can see it's this for 9 hours, and you're essentially taking a trip with a fixed view of the tracks. Oh, good, they got the wipers. So what's so interesting about Slow TV is it's very meditative. So Eve Online's version of this is to show a Gitacam. Let's see if we have videos of it. Well, that doesn't look like Slow TV. So that's mislabeled.
The Slow TV that CCP TV has been doing is generally a camera outside a station.
There you go. Yeah, and so you watch that for, I don't think this is going to be the whole thing, but you watch that for a certain amount of time. You watch traffic come and go, and it's like watching an aquarium. Like some people watch a fire when they're near a fire and they relax and meditate. Some people watch an aquarium. And so this is the same kind of, you're tapping into the same rhythms. This is a little artificial because it's a cyber universe or whatever, but you're tapping into the like rhythms of Earth, I think. And that's what Slow TV is. And it's kind of fascinating if you're seeing something you wouldn't normally see. I'm sure if they did Slow TV on your backyard, you would be like, what's the point of that? But if you're seeing Slow TV in Estonia, for instance, some place that you wouldn't normally go unless you were from there or had business there or something. That sounds really bad. But anyway, the point is someplace where you're not, then it becomes very interesting. It's a very interesting exploration and meditative. Much like this doesn't seem to be moving, but yeah. So anyway, it's neat to see CCP kind of doing that. That's funny. Was that Slow TV like really lagged out? That would be hilarious. Yeah. All right. So that's the Gitacam Slow TV on CCP. But what you want to look for is actually the stream that's happening in 1 hour when they announce the winners of the Eve is Beautiful stream. All right. Do you have any Triglavian news at all? I don't know if there's anything there.
Only what I shared about Arvosaurus. It's now the 5th system to be pushed. It's got just a sliver left of Edencom resistance before it becomes final liminality. I know that Anasir of the Arataka Research Consortium in chat is pushing the propaganda. He's saying that it's contested, but I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, if you can pull up the agency right now in game and take a look, like it's what, like 80-90% of the way, something like that.
Okay, today I'm going to pass it because I'm not set up to get into game just yet, and it'll take me 5 minutes to get everything cleared and stuff. So what we want to do, though, is go into zKillboard, and wow, these things are moving fast because a lot of things dying right now. Let's move over to just the big stuff, and then we'll get into the war update. There have been kills that coincide with the groups that are lining up to fight this war. So we'll undoubtedly stumble upon Initiative, Test, and other groups, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the alliances that are shifting around. Okay, so let's do that. First, we'll talk about the kills that are over 10 billion. Again, most of these kills are from groups that are heating up to enter a war that's going to happen between the Imperium and just about everybody else, according to the Imperium. The Imperium consists of Initiative, so that is not an ally, that's part of their group. But I can't think of other allies that the Imperium has off the top of my head, unless I think of groups like maybe Fed Up or small side groups that might have working relationships with the Imperium or have had in the past ambiguous relationships. But other than those wild cards, and they may not be allied with the Imperium is kind of by itself, if I think about it. And on the other side, attacking it, well, we don't actually know yet. But from a lot of the propaganda, it seems like everybody else that's in nullsec. So we'll see how that turns out. Right now, we're looking at June 26th. Looks like some hells have been destroyed. They're in different parts of the south. So Vindictive loses a hell in Immensia, MTAC Z. It's taken out by Gornclade. Ranger Regiment loses hell in period basis in the system of EIMJ TAC. That's taken out by Fraternity. And Ranger Regiment loses a second hell in period basis in a different system, PA TAC VE3, and that's taken out by Pandemic Legion. So period basis not real safe right now for ratting, as some of the fireworks are getting started. Fraternity and Pandemic Legion will be among the two groups attacking the Imperium. Or I should say, entering a war with the Imperium. We don't know who's attacking who yet, because this whole business of attacking super capitals that are out there ratting is something happens every day. So I wouldn't consider that part of an attack or a preemptive strike or anything. Remember, we're in like a, what is it, 2-week waiting period, I believe. And we're only
shortly after the beginning of July.
Yeah, the 5th, I believe. That's when the actual non-invasion pact dissolves. And if everybody lives up to it, that's when they're able to take the gloves off and start fighting in earnest. On June 25th, though, we had, looks like an Alliance tournament ship, a Hydra, destroyed. We didn't cover this. It was killed in Kadama.
That was Sniper Bros.
Kadama. Right, he's a hunter, right? Am I?
He has made his name in Abyss PvP.
That's right.
Yeah, he's very good in Abyss PvP.
That's right.
He made a lot of this. He killed a lot of people, and he blew it on some luxury item, and decided to get that thing blown up in LoSec, apparently.
Well, he had it decked out, but it's 145 billion ISK loss. this one little Kovops frigate, basically. And it looks like it got taken out. He belonged to Test.
Well, unfortunately, the value of an Alliance tournament ship on Zekill is kind of a fabricated number. These, being the fact that these items are limited and have zero trade volume, there's no trade volume on them because there's only a couple ever made. A value has to be assigned. So Zekill will assign a value to the hull. The truth is that they're priceless.
Right. In this case, the ship is considered to be worth 140 billion ISK, but it can be whatever somebody will pay for that. It most likely will not be less than 140 billion.
Significantly more.
On market at the moment, they're trading between 220 and 240 billion.
Yikes. Okay, so quite a bit more. That's a good 50% more or more. And on the ship, he had a pretty strong loadout. The price tag of which comes to, let's see.
He had abyssal modules on there, so zero value. I mean, they show up as zero value.
Right.
But again, they were high-end modules. They were many billions each.
Yeah, it's hard to really put a price on those things because they're not market related, so the market can't really
CC, please.
Well, it would be hard for CCP to judge.
You don't have to give us a value, but you got to give us the attributes of the item so that we could see what it was.
Oh,
because right now all it is it's a zero stat abyssal module. We have absolutely no idea. It could have been meta decayed, piece of garbage for all we know, or it could have been an officer mod and it's completely obfuscated, destroyed forever.
Well, yeah. So it would be good to see the stats on the abyssal stuff. So a question comes in here. Who in Eve has the biggest collection of rare ships? That's a good
What's
question.
the dude's name? I forgot his name.
Still goes to Blue Melon, the owner of the Raven State. Or Entity.
Entity, that's the one.
Right. It used to be a different guy. The one that flew the Raven State in a Alliance tournament. I wish I could remember his name right now, but this was like 2007, 2008. And he used to have a lot of rare ships, and he would occasionally bring them out in high-risk situations that were public. And I believe he was also involved with, somebody can help me out that's been around a long time. He's also involved with the Guiding Hand Social Club, which was really well known in 2005 for their heist that really sparked the imagination of EVE Online's espionage game. That article, if you ever want to read it, look up PC Gamer, look up Murder Inc. It was like a 9-month heist that was just an amazing read. It's very well written. It's really what I think put CCP on the map for an entire generation of players, including people like the Matani, but also people you wouldn't suspect, like, just anybody who's an elder statesman in EVE Online, like Noisy Gamer, or any of these guys that have been around a long time but aren't necessarily in the PvP game. All were attracted to EVE from that article, that one article. It's just written so well in it, and it really exemplifies it. Actually, as long as I'm talking about it, Murder Inc., PC Gamer, EVE Online. I refer to this a lot. It's a 10-month deception. It looks like this. You can see the very old art there. Now, it says November 2015. That's when it was republished. It was actually published in 2007. The actual incident happened in 2005. So it took a few years for that article to really... Sorry, it was published in 2005. It became popular in 2007, I believe. Yeah, 2005 is when the actual thing happened. And it was a September issue of PC Gamer UK that came out. Just a fantastic read. Do yourself a favor. Find some time. It's like required reading for EVE Online, and I'll put it in here. So check it out. Okay, but anyway, Thorax. Oh, I forget his name. But anyway, he was one of the guys that was associated with that, and he had just a ton of ships. Tyrax. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. He's no longer the guy probably with the most expensive ships. It's probably Blue Melon who stole a bunch from PL.
I don't know, I'm still going with entity.
Or
Yeah,
entity.
a Tempest Tribal issue and an Apocalypse Imperial issue.
Yeah, either of those two guys probably have the most expensive, rare car collection, let's call it, in their garage.
The Jay Leno's of EVE Online?
Yeah. For those that might know, that comedian that collects antique cars. So, Hydra destroyed, belonged to Sniper Bros 15. Who got him? Let's have a look. It was Method Synergy. Don't know what group that was. Let's look at the full kill mail and see if that was assist by other people. So, yeah, it's a little Shadow Cartel in there. There's Lysandra Rilla, Method Strategy, One Man. This looks like a disparate group of people. I don't see any. I wonder who they actually are. These look like, look like alts. Well, congratulations then to.
I'm actually very surprised. Well, actually, the truth is I'm not surprised. So most people will treat Alliance tournament ships a certain way, and I know that Sniper didn't treat it the way that other people would, and that's the reason that he didn't get Von Hold. People are very careful with these ships, and if you look at a lot of, like the majority of Alliance tournament ships' deaths, that one dude, Von Hold, is pretty much on all of them.
Yeah.
And it's because people are careful, and he is methodical, and he watches and waits, and he gets them. But Sniper kind of just went out there and did his thing, so Von Hold didn't have time to set up.
Yeah. Well, we're supposed to be talking about the war update, but we'll diverge a little bit longer here. The question is, what ships got stolen from PL? Tournament ships got stolen from PL. They had like a team inventory manager or something, and I think that was Blue Melon, and he was basically given several AT ships to kind of hold on to and to distribute. But he decided to walk away from PL, and he decided that those weren't borrowed ships; those were now his ships. So he ended up taking a lot of PL's actual tournament ships that they'd won over the years. And PL had won the tournament several times. In I think 2007 through 2012, they really dominated the Alliance tournament scene, and they collected a bunch of ships there. So I think he took off with I want to say anywhere from 8 to 15 ships, I think. I'm just pulling out my memory. Yeah, it was a lot of ships.
Alliance tournament ships.
How many?
18. I have a list here if you want them.
That is fabulous.
Yeah, what kinds of ships did he run off with?
So he got 2 Adrestias, 4 Chameleons, 1 Itana, 2 Fiends, 2 Malices, 2 Marachas, 3 Rabisus, and 2 Vangals.
Yeah.
That is no joke at all.
I think he tried to push it off as like a heist that he had waited so long. Here they are. He'd waited so long to get his revenge, and he was getting his revenge, and I just don't buy it. Like, there's no evidence he was like holding the resentment that whole time. So it's kind of more convenient. He was leaving the game, so he was going to like take these before he retired. I don't know, in case he wanted to do something with them when he came back, or who knows why. So yeah. I didn't celebrate it like I would that, super impressive Murder Incorporated, where it's a plot. Clearly, it's a well executed plot. It takes time, it takes investment. They have the Valentine operatives that make the victim fall in love with them. It was really like controversial at the time. That is full of imagination. But when somebody has a falling out with their former friends and takes stuff, that's just not that sexy, Sorry, it's not. Even if you didn't like them, but then you didn't like them again, it's still not. It doesn't show any forethought, no planning. There's no intention there. It's also just one person. Same thing with the judge when he decided to just betray CO2 and take the Keep Star, take some money. It's just not the same. It doesn't have the same intention. It's more like somebody got mad and decided to turn on friends, and you can't deny that that's could be one, you know, it could be what happened. People just get mad and say, well, it's just a game. I'm not accountable. And, you know, so to heck with you guys. That's also what happened with the win of Goon Swarm over Band of Brothers is they, Band of Brothers had somebody who could pull the plug on them and essentially pulled Sov out from under Band of Brothers in a way that Band of Brothers had a hard time recovering from. And a lot of players were upset at that, just like they were upset at the CO2 thing. People recognize when one person makes a decision that essentially takes away an entire amount of potential gameplay because something that happened to them. It seems like a very, I don't know, self-centered move, and it doesn't have any of the panache of something like a Murder Incorporated would have. It has, again, a total plan. You're coming in, you're being patient and investing in the plot. You knew that before, you knew that during, and you did it, and you knew it afterwards. That's a whole different way of looking at heists than these guys used to be my friends, but they're not my friends anymore, so I'm just taking their stuff. Different caliber. Okay, let's go ahead, please.
It's an opportunistic thing. They see what's in the hangar and think, this is something I could use and get away with, and it will set me up for a long time, rather than someone going in saying, I'm going to do this to this corp in this alliance.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's the difference between intentionality and opportunism.
Yeah, we should explore that later. Let me finish this war update, and then we'll come back to this. There's a bunch of stuff's been killed in the last few days. We weren't able to cover it. So, French Connection loses a Tatara in Pure Blind. They also lose an Asbel in the same system, and that's a total of 30 billion lost there in infrastructure for industry. The Initiative lose a Fortizar in Placid in the system of Ole. That's killed by Snuffed Out. 17 billion lost there. You have another Asbel worth 15 billion in Sync Liaison and Forent. I like that system name, Forent. That's taken out by Jita Holding Company. Seal Demolition lost that. Dracaris loses a Hell in period basis. Again, we talked about Ranger Regiment losing a Hell in period basis. It seems like Hells and period basis have something in common there. This must be something going on. Yeah, so Dracaris is a companion to Ranger Regiment. They're both Chinese alliances. They both settled in period basis after they fled the Dead Coalition destruction up north. They joined the Imperium, and they came down and resided in period basis, and they've been kind of farming that area, but they've been getting picked off by Pandemic Horde, Fraternity, and Pandemic Legion. So those are the kills that you're seeing there. Next, you have Loseknia Shulpin, which are in Russian street kids, low-sec street kids or street gangs or hoodied kids or whatever. And that was actually them losing in Iridia, which is rare. They lost Ragnarok, but they traded one with Ranger Regiment, who also lost Ragnarok. So it looks like Loseknia, this is very interesting. I'm going to highlight it so you can see it. This was a couple days ago. Those two kills are exact trades of each other. Loseknia kills a Ranger Regiment Ragnarok, and Ranger Regiment kills a Loseknia Shulpin Ragnarok. The difference is that Loseknia's cost 85 billion and Ranger Regiment's cost 67 billion. So Ranger Regiment wins that one. In Hamatar, a Hell is destroyed that belonged to Siberian Squad. The Siberian Squad was also part of the Dead Coalition. They also fled after the war, but they went to Legacy Coalition. So they're killed in Hamatar. That is Minmatar Empire space in the system of Lantorn. And Pandemic Horde loses an Aeon, it's another super. That was killed in Hamatar as well, in Auron. Looking at this, here's where we finally get into the big Chappy bash that happened a few days ago in Tunadon. That was a planned fight, and you can see a Zanitra there belonging to Pandemic Horde. Marathia, who's also an FC, I think he flies for Horde, but mostly he's known for his purple fleets, where he has a community fleet. Anybody can come and participate in his fleet. He's the one that dropped the Zanitra, and it got wiped out by the more than 1,000 players. You can see there's 1,000 or more players on that kill mail, so everybody was shooting that one. Hi, Razorian. How you doing, buddy? Also, in that same system, you had a Titan destroyed that belonged to CCP Convict of the Community Team. So that belongs to CCP Alliance, and that is also in Tunadon for Chappy's birthday bash. And that was over 1,000 players shooting that. So that Zanitra and that Leviathan both had a ton of people on the kill mail. Rumor is that that was actually a Titan that belonged to the actual player that is now CCP Convict. That it wasn't just a out of nowhere CCP generation thing that was dropped. Like, that's the rumor, but we're not sure if that's true. If so, good on Convict, but also good on Marathia for sacrificing these expensive ships for a big party. And finally, the last one, Razor Alliance. Sully, this is you. Losing a Nyx in Molden Heath in the system of Enur. Verge of Collapse got him. Any Sully, you still here with us?
I'm still here, yeah. I believe he was traveling and got caught in travel.
Yeah, because you're kind of like in the middle of nowhere, right? With that, he might have been, yeah, Molden Heath and Newer. I don't know what Razor was doing there, but well, Razor right now is where are you guys? You're part of Fire, right? Yeah, you're part of Fire Coalition.
We are indeed.
Okay, that's right. And so you're in Innsmother. What's going on in Innsmother? We saw a couple fights there. Let's go back, guys. It's been kind of heated up. Are you involved with any of that? Or are you out somewhere else?
There's been some small skirmishes in Innsmother and areas, but there's not a huge amount. Horde happened to bring some lovely cormorant gangs down almost daily, and they're a lot of fun to fly in. Well, not fly in Horde gang, fly against them. So Horde are constantly bringing us good fights. That's why you see Jay-Z up there a lot of the time, is because we just have a brawl with Horde, and it's a lot of fun for everyone involved with nice cheap ships.
Right. We've been watching this, and it's basically Horde and allies like Slice fighting the Fire Coalition in Innsmother. Is there anything at stake there, or is it just patrols meeting other patrols?
It is literally just Horde like to roam in between 60 and 150 man cormorants, and we like to fight them in 60 to 100 man cormorants. It's just straight up a fight against a fight.
Yeah. You can see the numbers are insignificant as far as these two powers are concerned. Really, they only get into the low billions. Like this one costs a total of 2 billion. That's less than some ships. So these entire fleets that collided with over 170 ships destroyed still managed to cost less than one ship. So not a big deal financially. It looks like it's just patrolling around.
Yeah, the good thing with cormorant fights is once you get to a certain point, it's literally just a trade, because you have so many to kill so many, and it literally ends up being just a brilliant trade of brawls. I've gone in one before, and I lost 3 cormorants in the same fight.
Yeah. Fire Coalition, is there any word on what's going to happen with them? Let's see if we can zoom into where they are. Because they're not legacy. You're not obligated. Were you obligated under the NIP? Do you know?
So we're, as far as I'm aware, we're not obligated to go to war, but I'm not sure what the plans are. I'm not that high up, unfortunately.
Yeah. Just wondering if it's public for your alliance, if you guys knew. Or look, let me zoom in here. Let's look at legacy, what's going on here. Now we focus on legacy because they're kind of the interesting mover in this situation. They're the ones that are moving kind of against their own interests for some reason. Either they've been convinced that's a better thing to do, or they feel like it's better for the game, as Villy explained. He's a leader of legacy, or they're bored and they need something to do. But they're the ones that are kind of like the wild card that could have gone either way. And that's why we look at their situation as opposed to looking at the Imperium's, which has clear, they have clear objectives. They want to stay safe in their area while projecting out and disrupting competitors. And on the other side, you have NCPL Horde. Also, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there now that I think about it, because there's a dynamic that's changing. The Horde appears to be much more influential than they were a year ago or even 2 years ago. So they're kind of taking, their plans seem to be taking form in a different way. Let's actually look at that. Okay, got some mail that I have to read here. Oh, this is fantastic. This is great. And I'm just getting a message from my friend Steve Mesner, who just published this article on Chappy's big fight. And I sent him information about this fight happening, and he wrote an article about it. I can take credit for it because he just said thanks for the article. So it's he watches the game and stuff, but every once in a while when I think something is interesting enough, I'll send it to him and he will look into it. So he's a good friend, one of the great he's one of the good guys to hang out with in any kind of convention situation. He's just a great guy, really. Hilarious guy.
He is very good at writing articles as well. I can say that firsthand. Very good.
Yeah, good guy. In fact, we have a little love affair because when we would go to Vegas, we'd be like, man, you're the guy I want to hang out with when I come here. And we both have that mutual thing. So we do spend a lot of time together just sitting there talking. And we don't talk about like what to write about and stuff, but we go like right into EVE Online, how deep it goes, society, some of society's pressure. Like we go right into that whole thing. And then it's full of laughs and stuff like that. Of course, we both treat it like work. He's actually working, and I just treat it like work because of this. So anyway, good friend, good virtual friend, and he not just wrote an article. I encourage you all to go read it. It's about Chappy, and there is a lot of story for Chappy still, and this is part of it, and you can be part of it too. You can read this article, you can listen to the TED Talk podcast that comes out, and there's still more to be written here. Oh, really? We're in the article? I'm going to bring it up. Thousands of EVE Online players go to war in celebration of this terminally ill player's birthday. When Chappy 78 learned his cancer was back, the EVE Online community rallied to make his birthday one to remember. That image is, can I say golden? Literally, but figuratively as well. I've seen this picture up close. I think it's Rizorian, who's in the audience as well here. And if you look closely, all those little specks of black are actually ships and wrecks in space near this sun. And on the right-hand side, the little things that look like little fish are Goonswarm hurricanes, I believe. And on the left, I think there's Horde Feroxes. And it's just amazing the amount of detail that you can get in here. And what we're looking at is is this the business end or the back end? I think this is the business end of this Zenitra. that Marathia was piloting. That was later destroyed, but it looks like a crucifix almost, doesn't it, with a heart in the middle. I think there's some symbolism there.
Yeah, that Zernitra and CCP Convicts Leviathan were the bulk of the 200 billion ISK that was destroyed during this battle. Those two ships alone were the real highlights that were brought out. Those players chose to sacrifice those ships specifically in honor of this player that is terminally ill.
Yeah, there goes the destruction of, I believe that's a Phoenix that Chappy was actually piloting. So there's that.
He had Chappy brought out a Nidhogger carrier and a Phoenix Dreadnought to have them both destroyed.
Yeah, and this is hilarious because we did stream it. Francois, you were helping us out with it. Let me fix my title here. There, that just makes it a bit better. And when we were streaming it, I think we streamed for like 4 hours. And while we were streaming it, this, what do you call this ship that Dirk McGurk was totally wanting to, he was trying to encourage people to shoot it and destroy it.
He had a thing for that Praxis. I don't know why. He saw it, he didn't recognize it, and therefore he decided that he hated it and just continued banging on it the entire show. Why is this Praxis alive?
Yeah, kill the Praxis. But we did like 4 hours of streaming. You can see images like that. And we're giving all that footage over to Ashtarothi's group. He has an editor. They'll cut some stuff together and hopefully produce more memorial style stuff to make sure that people remember that. And actually, look, here we are. This is kind of a meta moment, right? Where we're looking at ourselves through a picture. And this drunk-faced looking guy over here, ignore him. But we were talking about Chappy, and that's really a bittersweet ending to the show the other day. I think that was only 2 days ago. Yeah, that was the 24th. It's the 26th, so a couple days ago. So this is all very fresh material. Nice long article by Mesner. Good job on him. Very touching story all around. And again, that story is not over. There's still more to be written there. Okay, going back to War Update. There is some stuff that's interesting. I'm sorry it's taken so long to get to it over here. We got distracted by tournament ships exploding and other stuff. But let's go back to the War Update. There is some interesting dynamics happening here that we haven't really looked at. And one of them is Army of Mango had this corporation that was led by this CEO that was named Mrs. Rabbit. And she is a financier. In other words, she has real money that she put into the game, and she was able to build infrastructure, to build structures and super capitals. And she donated a lot of that influence and power to a different group. She gave it over to, I don't think they're on the map in period basis because all the structures on this map are owned by Goonswarm, but in this long area here is period basis. It's hard to see in the yellow. Now period basis, let me actually go to a place where you could see that. Period basis is down here on the left. It's part of Delve, essentially. It's kind of guarded by Delve. You can see it there. And in period basis is, Ranger Regiment, right? We were talking about period basis, Ranger Regiment, and Dracarys. These are groups that came from Dead Coalition. And she's a big benefactor of theirs. In fact, they called her their queen. So the question is, these groups sought refuge with the initiative. Ranger Regiment did. Ranger Regiment is loyal to somebody who's in the Legacy Coalition. So what's going to happen with standings there? What kind of crazy position is Miss Rabbit in now? remains to be seen. This is a very interesting subtext to the whole switching of alliances and stuff. One of the reasons I was talking to Sully here about Razor. What's Fire Coalition doing? Are they going along with Legacy? Right now, there's nothing to go along with. All that's happening is that the preparations for war are being made. So we'll see how it goes. But I think that's very interesting. Also, another thing that, well, I guess that's the most interesting thing that I've seen lately. There have been some battles. I think not only have fighting in Insmother, but that seems to be non-consequential. But there has been initiative fighting with Legacy in certain areas. What was that? Who do we have here? Someone was describing the Dread Bomb from Stain, because Stain's getting involved in the fights too now. That was pretty funny. I think we missed it yesterday. We could have talked about it. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. There was a Dread Bomb by Stain wagon against... I'm not going to find it. But Stain right now, Stain used to be incredibly powerful. But right now, I think Stain is a bit of a non-factor. I hate to put it that way. It sounds insulting. They haven't demonstrated their capability yet. It may come back. You can never count them out ever. Test is presumably going to war, is a question from Quantum here, against the Imperium. We expect them to find their way either into Goonswarm space proper or to cross into Fountain, where the initiative is here in the orange. There's a lot of pressure coming down this direction to Fountain, entering pretty much in JTAC 5 or J5A TAC. That system is known for the Keep Star. It's kind of like a lighthouse, really, on the shores of Fountain. And so that's the retreat point that Initiative and Imperium called for. So they've essentially moved to that system. And coming down in this direction here is NC Dot, Horde, Pandemic Legion, Fraternity 2. We don't know which way they'll come, but they'll probably come that way. All the groups that basically fought Sword Dragon in the north are headed down, we think, towards the initiative. They had already been fighting up here in the green area where Conifers are, in Pureblind and in Fade. So there was activity up here. But last week, the Imperium and the initiative decided to pull back. It was either, and actually, I believe Test was up there too, maybe not with huge amounts of troops or anything, but they were kind of in that area. Now, this is interesting because you have this whole area over here of lots of little alliances that are all kind of living in tense neighborhoods where they fight each other, but they all remain small. They're not ganging up. They're not forming a coalition. They're not, from what I understand, they don't call each other to help their own fights. They're really duking it out on their own. And that's why you have a lot of diversity up there. Call it biodiversity. Now up here you had former Dead Coalition space, but that all went away when it was defeated by PandaFam, we call that. That's NC.Horde. And Fraternity having a panda, because they're Chinese, I guess, as a logo. So that changed the name from PanFam to PandaFam. And so those groups together form this pretty impressive block. I think that block is mostly led by Horde now, or the ideas of Horde's, the strains of Horde's plans and their vision for what works right now in the game seems to be what's winning out. I think if you look at statistics, they've even outperformed the Imperium on many of those markers. Let's see if I can find some of that information for you. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the MER, which we did yesterday, we kind of went through it with Lichgrave, and we're comparing numbers like what May looked like compared to April. And that had some value, but I think after the show, we decided that just doesn't have enough value. Like it doesn't really tell you a story because they're too close together. Eve moves in much longer periods of time. So comparing 1 month to another is like comparing 1 hour to another. There's not enough to see an actual change. But over time, if you look at it, the total mining value for the drone lands is like 5 trillion, 5.5 trillion. For Legacy, it's 4.9 trillion. And for Goonswarm, it's 3.9 trillion. So Legacy and drones belongs again to PandaFam. You're seeing mining value surpass what Goonswarm was able to produce. And total ratting value for drones, you had 19.4 trillion. Legacy had 11 trillion. And then Goonswarm comes in third again at 9.6 trillion. Now, I'm not sure if this is just Goonswarm or it's the Imperium, which would make a difference. And then the total production value of, and this is production producing things that cost ISK. So it could be anything from super capital ships to structures to anything, modules, ships, everything. Total production value in drones. So this gives you an idea of the industry power that's there. Drones tops the list again at 25.1 trillion. Goons are in second place here at 20 trillion, 20.5 trillion. And then Legacy is far behind at 13.6 trillion. But those key indicators, if you look at the monthly economic report, are a change from a year ago. They're a change from 6 months ago. So things have changed as far as how you begin to win this game. And it's not just a military operation that's happening on the map. This has been a strategic change, I think, led by Horde, because I was in NC. And I know what their tendencies are. And their tendencies are, we're not farmers. We're not going to rat. You're not turning NC. into a ratting alliance. We're going to fight. That's how we do things. So it certainly isn't NC.'s prerogative to build an empire, but Horde has been demonstrating that quite a bit. Fraternity has been demonstrating that quite a bit. And I think those two powers combined have really changed the nature of the northern powers. Furthering that, another group that adopted that same strategy, and of course this was a strategy pioneered by Goonswarm, they settled. They got numbers, they grew big, they totally took advantage of the mining opportunities in the mechanics at the time. So they pioneered this. But Horde has caught on and is doing it now better than Goonswarm. They might have more people, they might have a funner place. Who knows what's attracting the success. But Legacy was also on that, and they were on it relatively early. When they found a home in the South, they already had plans. And they said this publicly, to find territory, secure it, and build industry, and build super capitals. And the super capitals would put them at an advantage. It's something they didn't have. It's something they wanted. So that was Legacy's plan for a while. And it took them a while to execute it, but they finally have. They're in a good spot now. And and I'm looking at the South here. When you look at Legacy, they secured allies too. They're friendly to Providence, even though they destroyed Providence and took their stations. All right, let me change what I just said there. Pandemic Legion destroyed Providence and was going to take their stations. But the nearby Legacy Coalition had more firepower, and at the very last second, attacked Pandemic Legion and stole the stuff that they stole. And they did it so fast that Pandemic Legion almost had enough time to start taking it back, but there was this clock ticking to midnight, and that was a certain specific downtime of a certain specific date. When it hit, the stations went from being indestructible to being fortizars and destructible, and they could also be unanchored. And so the point is that PL came in and, like bandits, took over an area and were about to capture all the treasure, but then Legacy came in and swept it all up, swept PL out, swept up the treasure. They made over I think it was 2.1 trillion or more on that. That was a huge payday that Test picked up. But they managed to stay friends with Providence. I think they even gave him some stations or something like that. And they also now protect Providence, Proviblock, to a certain degree when some of the enemies of Proviblock gain ground. I'm talking about Wrecking Crew. So all this to say, the Legacy Coalition has been pretty good about keeping good borders. So they had Providence as a friend. They had Fire Coalition as a friend. That's XX Death and Razor and other groups. Sully, you still here?
I am, yes.
Yeah, who's in Fire Coalition to give people an idea?
So the big hitters we have is Red Alliance, XDEF, and Razor are the three main big hitters. Apologies if I have missed anyone. Oh, and Unreal Alliance. Apologies for them.
Unreal. Okay. Valkyrie Alliance ring a bell at all?
They kind of like sticking to themselves with the wiki. They are part of Fire Coalition, though. I do always forget that because generally I don't see them around too much, but they are. There's a pretty much a large majority of those around Wicked Creek, Innsmother, and Torrid.
Right. So they're technically in, but they're not necessarily.
Yeah, they're so Fire Coalitions share a lot of space, but they like to keep to themselves, which is why I always forget their name because we don't share space with them.
Got it. Yeah. I'm looking on the map. That's why I have the benefit of that. So the Fire Coalition Legacy, though, are bros. They don't attack each other. So those are good borders. This wasn't always the case. The area that Fire Coalition now resides in belonged to Fraternity, and it was a very hostile border for a long time, for an entire year, between Fraternity and Legacy Coalition. And the other warm border or blue border, we'll call it, that Legacy had was with Imperium. There were hostiles in Stain there. You see the black area in the middle? That's unconquerable by players. So there's always some people living in it that will never be evicted because nobody can take over that space. It's an NPC space. So those guys were hostile to Legacy, I believe. But on the other side of that little pond is the Imperium, and in the form of Aquarius and Period Basis and Delve, those three regions. And so Legacy for a long time was really kind of locked in this blue area where they had friends on the left, friends on the right. And then I saw this in real time, I guess you could say. When Army of Mango arrived in EVE Online, it was a big deal. A big deal. It was then we had a few shows on it. This might have been 2 years ago. We first saw Fraternity rise as a Chinese group, and we saw them get courted by everybody. Everybody wanted to be friendly with Fraternity. It was initially people thought there would be a new time zone. We had the Russian time zone. Now we're going to have the Chinese time zone. So it was a big deal. But at a certain point, Army of Mango started entering the game as well. And you could see Legacy court them and say, we'll give you some space. We'll take care of you until you get on your feet. And they fostered this group. So behind them. So again, Legacy has friends to the left, friends to the right, and friends behind them. So they were locked up pretty good in a pretty safe position. They also had friends in the front of them with Providence. So they maintained good relations for a while. And then I think what's very interesting and needs to be investigated and talked about, this story still needs to be written, is how is it that Legacy and I think Pandemic Horde is the key relationship there. How do those two come together? Is this a move by the very well-liked Gobbins? Has he orchestrated the rise of Horde? The cohesion of the North? The co-opting of Fraternity? as a Chinese time zone that led to the destruction of one of his enemies, Sword Dragon, and they were enemies. And then the warm relations with Vili, like, is all that coming from him? Did he put this together without having the use of a ton of ISK coming from casinos? Was he able to stitch this together? We'll never know. He doesn't talk on shows and he doesn't talk very much to people. So, but he's a very mysterious figure. And I feel like he's kind of one of the center points of this entire wave of things that we're seeing. And not only that, but you're seeing a complete restructuring of the amount of industry that Horde is able to produce. And it's just, it's very interesting. I think there's a lot to be looked at there, and hopefully we can get some interviews and talk to some people and find out what's really going on. Not to take away anything from someone like Vili, who we know pretty well, and we know that he's probably tired of having so much, we can't call it stagnation, but so much predictable. I think he wants some to inject some unpredictable results into the game, and he's gambling his own personal fortune to do it. I think that's part of what's going on here. I don't know. I think it's the whole story that hasn't been written is the rise of goblins, and I think there's something to be, I don't want to overhype him, but I think there's something to be said for what Goblin's been able to do over a long period of time. And I will say this one last thing, Sully, before I let you jump in, and that is, it wasn't a foregone conclusion that a group like Horde would survive or thrive. We saw Northern Coalition had the Northern Army, right? So you had Karma Fleet for Goonswarm, you had Pandemic Horde, and you had Northern Army. And Northern Army totally withered and died under the care of Northern Coalition. So it's not a foregone conclusion. Brave also thrived for a while as a New Bro corporation, and it shrunk down by 80% at one point. They lost 8,000 members and, one cleaning out of inactives. And they have, by sticking to test, survived and grown a bit. I don't know what their current condition is, but Sully, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I saw a question in chat from Farah saying about Test and Fraternity having an active no-solve war. It came around a few weeks ago, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago now, that NC Dot actually withdrew their offensive, as did Fraternity. This was over cash. The reason was stated that there wasn't enough quote-unquote good fights. But some people like to believe that this was in the pipework because they both returned back to their main systems. And I think the relationship between Test and Pandemic Horde is going to be one of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. Convenience, right? Like, but see, the thing that's interesting to me is Legacy and Imperium were not enemies. There was a lot of tension. No, there wasn't even a lot of tension. There was some tension where FCs from Imperium, we'll say like Pando or like Pittsburgh, would come over into Test territory and kind of like pick up targets of opportunity. And the relationship was set up in a way that the Imperium was essentially farming Test, going in there and getting some kills to keep their guys active and all this other stuff. And it caused diplomatic problems. Now, Test wasn't complaining about it necessarily. They were grumbling. I got to say, Ron at USMC as an FC was kind of grumbly about it. Didn't love it. They're fighting a war against Fraternity, and you have their allies' initiative coming in and taking targets of opportunity. That puts them at a disadvantage in the war. So that's a problem. You have Pittsburgh doing a couple dread bombs, which is pretty significant. If you're dropping dreads, you're killing some big things. So that would cause any leader to say, like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys are hurting us while we're trying to fight a war. We have a non-invasion pact, but you mind dialing it down? And those are some of the diplomatic tensions that existed before. But I don't think that's why the leader of Legacy decided, I'm going to break these relations off, because he could have done it back then, but he didn't. Yeah, Pittsburgh had since was told to stop doing that by the Mittani. Pittsburgh got upset, said, "This is ridiculous. We want to have some fun, and we have a non-invasion pact, not a non-aggression pact, so we can aggress them. So I don't know why you're telling me I can't do this, and so I'm out of here." And he took off and went to Trigger Happy for a while, but Pittsburgh actually ended up in NC DOT now. So there's a group there called Sinners Corporation that has a lot of U.S. time zone FCs. While Shiva has a lot of EU FCs for Northern Coalition. So Pittsburgh is now in NC DOT, so it's Redline. He's a former Goonswarm FC. But you have other guys that went their separate ways. Obviously, Kendar went and started Trigger Happy. He's now back in the game. He said he was going to fight test on behalf of Goonswarm, but then he said he would. Then we heard the other day from Zesty, the leader of Trigger Happy, said that, yeah, Kendar's back. He's kind of drunk when he said that, and he doesn't know what he's going to do. I think he's going to stick with Trigger Happy and probably fight for whoever they fight. And Kendar is a very well-liked FC, and I think he was in charge of a successful SIG for Goonswarm a while ago. I want to say it's Liberty, but it's not. It's Space Violence. I always say Liberty Squad, but it's Space Violence. That's the group. So anyway, a lot of people like Kendar. So they're eager to see where he lands in this whole thing. But the point is, you had FCs breaking off from Goonswarm. The criticism was that if you weren't part of the upper echelon of FCs, the clique, and that probably is Asher or Jay Amazingness. I don't know what other FCs would be up there. Maybe Apple Pear. Like if you weren't in that clique of FCs, that you really didn't get access to the good fleets, the good ships, the good doctrines, the good opportunities to have some fun. And so those guys have really, I don't know how many FCs Goonswarm has, but they lost some notable ones. Thomas Lear, I believe Canaan, Pittsburgh, Redline. I'm missing some big one here somewhere. There might have been like two others. These are people that people like to fly with. If you guys can think of some FC's names, let me know. But there's a group of them. And I'm only saying this because they complained about it publicly. It's not a secret why they left. They don't like the way, they don't like the safety of being in the Imperium, or the skittishness of going out and doing things for fun. Ghost Marine says, I forgot about Laz. Well, yeah, Laz was there, but he was there a long time ago. BTAC R 2014, 6 years ago. He made a comeback a couple times. I think he came back to fight in the original 2016 war, the invasion of the North, called World War B or Casino War, whatever you want. But he did not play a role. I think he was just disgusted in the way it was being fought and pretty much didn't involve himself in it. I think the FCs that were already commanding things at the time were Asher and the Big Red Boat, or at least the boat was very active, but I don't know if he was commanding things. So Laz didn't make a big appearance in that war at all. You might see him again. You might see him on Imperium's side. You might see him somewhere else, but I think he's actually been removed from his corporation, AMOC. If I'm not mistaken, he was kicked out. I think he was kicked out. He may be welcome in. I don't know what the situation is there, but it's kind of odd to see him not in that corporation, since he kind of defined it. It was the FC's corporation. It was like Shiva to NC is what AMOC is to Goonswarm. So we'll see, what happens there. I don't know. There's something else going on here too. You had Blackout. You had Drifter Attacks, which, was a big scare for nullsec in general. Not only Goonswarm, but Horde was complaining about that too. And so was, I don't know if Villy was complaining in Legacy, but there are people complaining about it. Then you had Blackout. Those two things together, well, actually, plus World of Warcraft starting up in classic mode. Those forces together pulled a lot of people. I want to say participation went down maybe an estimated 20%, 25% for the Imperium and Legacy, and maybe even Horde, but I'm not sure. They lost about that much of their population. It could have been, a lot of botting was being attacked at that time, so you don't know what the forces were that attracted people to leave the game. But botting was under a ton of pressure at that time too, so could have been anything. Could have been their gameplay was just stalled because it was oppressive. They couldn't really perform in what they wanted to do in Blackout. You can't go farm if it's constantly nighttime and there's constantly wolves that you can't see. It just doesn't make any sense to go out there and farm your territory. I use that as a metaphor. But when that was lifted, there was this time there, it should have recovered. And I think that all nullsec large groups are still softer than they were as far as population go. They're still down about 20%. You can see that in some of the numbers. I get it from talking to leaders of the coalitions that that's pretty much it. You can also see it in their voting patterns when they vote for CSM members. You compare the strength of last year to this year, and it's down about 20% as far as voting power. Now, there's different reasons not to vote, but we assume that if you're down 20% from last year, you're down 20%. So take it for what you will. Right. I think the untold story, by the way, is CCP quashed a lot of bots, made it hard, and a lot of people, I think, might have left nullsec where they were botting for big money there to try to bot in highsec in orcas or try to mine in orca. A lot of that AFK play that's not really botting, but it's kind of similar. A lot of AFK, a lot of mining, that kind of stuff might have moved to highsec. A lot of players have been attracted by the recent changes in Empire space. You have a ton of really engaging NPC stuff. So people have been attracted to the invasions and Triglavians versus Edencom and some of the stuff going on there. I think they might be getting their fix doing stuff like that as opposed to being involved in large alliances. So different things. Okay, we're about 10 minutes out from CCP streaming, so we'll raid them in about 10 minutes. Let's open this up to ask me anything or ask us anything, and we'll try to answer the questions that we can. Either about this war or about anything else.
Got in a little bit late. Did you guys cover the Q1 economic report thing that was released?
From the company itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
It's on the
not
launcher.
not only the MER, but also there's an economic report, like
Q1. Yeah.
Oh, let's have it. Give me a link to that.
It's
I'm sorry, economy
yeah, let me grab it.
review. Here,
Economy review, yeah.
I'll drop the link in Twitch chat.
I don't have the launcher available to me, so
Got
if you
it.
just give it.
Yeah, I just dropped it in Twitch chat there.
Thanks.
Public voice text.
Thank you, got it.
Yeah.
The economy review.
It's new graphs. I'm happy.
Whoa, shoot. Well, 10 minutes. Let's go through this quickly. Just tell us what it is. We'll investigate this on Monday or something.
It's pretty just it's basically just like a summary of Q1 in 2020. They're basically just saying, okay, so we looked at things and we did things and we're just reporting to say what's been happening. And so they were, for example, they have a price history of ISK per Plex, and they have that little graph there, and it's showing that 2020 in comparison to 2019, 2018, and 2017 is actually a really nice low for it's a historic low for Plex prices, according to this graph. So Plex is at an all-time low, which is cool. Which I believe they go on to say, like, this is the part of the deflation of the EVE economy, which, yeah, it's true. They talk about the money supply. Anti-botting has decreased the amount of minerals and ISK coming into the economy, cooped with the mineral changes, increasing the value of minerals has made mining more profitable per unit, along with the price of Plex going down while active ISK is going up. The cumulative effect is that in important segments of the game, the value of the labor hours seems to be increasing. So basically, what they're saying is the economy is getting healthier, and here's why. And then they threw up a whole bunch of graphs.
Yeah.
On a 10-mile overview, essentially, with less bots in the game that never sleep and never stop, the comparison of player effort to that is increased. So if you don't look at the raw ISK in your wallet, because that has to translate into something, and if you just look at the effect of your work, I spent a certain amount of time and this is what I get for it. Your time gets you more now than it did before.
Yep.
Right. Reminds me of something that Hilmar said when we interviewed him during the blackout, actually. It's right when there's a huge interview for us. I think there was 18,000 or 20,000 listens. It might be 20,000 by now, but like a week later, it was 18,000 listens, either through podcast or watching the video on YouTube, when we had the blackout interview with Hilmar himself. And in that interview, he said many, many interesting things about the way EVE Online works. When we were talking about Plex specifically, he said that Plex is always fixed. It's the price of labor. Here's the fixed Plex. It's the price of labor that goes up or goes down. See, here's labor going up or down against Plex, but Plex is always fixed.
Yeah, it is a really good way to look at it.
So if your labor, either through mining or building things or items in the game, is going up in value, Plex is naturally looks like it's going down in value. It's not. It's just that the items you're building and making and time you're spending is going up in value, which is what's happening. I think that made sense. It made sense to me.
Yeah, all of your time and the stuff that you get for your time, the ISK that you get for your time, the assets that you get for your time, all of those things have a greater value. Therefore, having that stuff gets you, the Plex. So the Plex requires less ISK to get because ISK is more valuable.
Yeah. Can somebody watch Twitch CCP TV for me and let me know when they go on so we can raid them?
Always am.
Good, thanks. So we'll stay here with us while they prepare. They'll be on in 8 minutes or 5 minutes. And when they start, we'll send you over there so you can just continue with them. They're going to have a stream real quick. They're going to have a stream on how beautiful EVE Online is. And you want to watch that. It's going to be nice. Go ahead, Lichgrave.
The other statistic is corp applications versus invitations over the course of the last 3-4 years, which is really interesting. I didn't even know that this was a statistic that they would be willing to put into a graph, but it is. And so what we've seen over the course of from April 1st, 2017 to April 1st, 2020 is the entire time applications to corp were the main way that people joined corporations, right?
Yeah.
But starting in December 1st, right around there, you start to see the lines get a lot closer than they have been historically, and now invitations to corp is actually pretty close to applications to corp. And there was a point somewhere between December and April where it overtook. I assume that this was because of the whole Koreans coming into the game, but it's really interesting to see. But overall, like when you look at actually no, that's a different time period. But the point being is that it's just amazing to see that there's like applications to corp, applications to or invitations from corps. It's just really interesting to see like how people go about joining groups in EVE Online.
Yeah. Well, we got to look into that. So that's the Q1 2020 economic review. So they're doing quarterly reviews now, not just monthly economic reviews, but now you have a quarterly economic review.
Well, so the economic reports are just saying, here's the stats. This is a true review saying,
So it's analysis.
Okay, we have our stats. Yeah, those are our stats. this is our CCP's personal analysis,
Got it.
which is really interesting.
Okay, we'll check it out. We'll look at it. We'll talk about it. What we want to do now is move you over to... Oh, by the way, CCP Convict is here, and he says it's in the first paragraph. What's in the first paragraph?
Oh, the quarterly economic review?
I mean, they made it a quarterly economic review. They can't just put Q1 without Q2 and 3 or 4.
Right.
Yeah, these reviews. Yeah, so they've been doing this for a while now.
Oh.
But they've been internal. So they're making it external. Awesome.
So the reason that this report is happening is because there is the ecosystem team that has been, assembled and is, going through the resource redistribution. Right now we're in the 7 lean years and 7 fat years are coming. So this is a special project. So this is a special report on the special project.
That is cool.
So we shouldn't expect this to continue coming regularly, but during the course of this special project where they're fixing the economy and balancing it in the ecosystem, we may see more reports, but we certainly can't rely on it.
Yeah. I should say CCP Convict from the community team at CCP says a ton of work went into this to get it into shape so that players could view it. Again, CCP has to basically redact stuff out so that players don't get an unfair advantage on knowing what's going to happen in EVE Online. So they have to prepare it, consider what's good for players to know, what would be bad for them, so there's no spoilers, etc., and then publish it. So thank you very much for doing all that work and getting us an economic report that we can pour over and look at.
We can raid over to CCP now.
Okay, so let's move over to CCP. Enjoy the rest of the stream with them. Thank you guys for showing up today. Really appreciate it. And we will see you. We might have a fun thing tomorrow. We might not, but we'll definitely see you Sunday for Talking in Stations. Here you go. Take care.